Hello, friends. How are you doing? Ooh, it is me. Boom, 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 boom. Heather, Liberty Librarian. How y'all doing? It is a beautiful day. It's sunshine. Everything is great outside. I am a happy girl today. So hope you guys are doing well. I'm gonna just make sure I close that down. There we go. So, what's new? I have had a lot of thought this week about like what it's like to be a person working and making money and not having enough money, and that everyone is kind of in the same boat. I've been reading a little bit about uh, you know what makes people tick, and so today we're going to talk a little bit about tipping. Now there's two sides of this coin. There's like a living wage, and then there's also getting tips and how that can contribute to having a living wage, and also that there's a history behind tipping that is kind of a dark side. So I'm going to look at both sides of the coin there, literally, and all that. But I found one fun thing today that I was just laughing about, and I didn't get okay. There's so much going on. I didn't bring my lunch or my breakfast today, so I've been like hungry all day. I've been like super thinking about it. So I ate a Pop Tart, and it totally wrecked my. Oh my god, the cat's getting a bag. The cat's out of the bag. I have had like a Pop Tart today, and I haven't had a Pop Tart for like 6 months, and I had one because like there's only one vending machine on our campus, and that is the food that is in there is chips, candy, and Pop Tarts. And I freaking love Pop Tarts. I got a strawberry one. It was really good, but it totally messed my blood sugar up. So I'm kind of off today. But so instead of alcohol, I'm having a hop tea, Hop Lark. It's the chamomile one. So hopefully it calms me down a bit because I had two sodas instead, and now I'm like, so soda and caffeine. So I feel like I'm gonna have like some sort of weird like 40-year-old woman heart attack today. So cheers. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Mm. And I went down like this rabbit hole because I was thinking about my friends from Michigan, and I was thinking about Michigan and Detroit and like Michigan kind of stuff. And one of my favorite movies from Detroit was Grosse Pointe Blank, and I love that one. It's got John Cusack, you remember him, and Dan Aykroyd, and it's really a good movie. It's been forever since I've seen it, and I was actually thinking about watching it again. But what was really weird was I was like, "Whoa, I wonder if that screenwriter and like has done anything else. As if there's there going to be another Grosse Pointe Blank." And I found out that about 8 years ago, the guy who wrote that died. He was only 49 when he died. So it was like his big movie script that he wrote, and had come up with a few others, but nothing else came out of it. So no Grosse Pointe Blank 2 is what I'm saying. It's been a while since that came out. I think it was like the late 90s. I'm going to have to look that up right now. Grosse Pointe Blank. And that's actually a city in it's in Michigan. It's actually like pretty much a suburb of Detroit. So I thought that was kind of interesting. The It was 1997, and the screenplay was by a guy named Tom Jankowitz, and he was like 10 years older than me, but he died in 2013, and when he was like it was the movie was about it like an assassin who came back to his 10-year high school reunion, and there's a lot of stuff that appeals to me on that. But I also I like Michigan people, so they're really cool people. So Jankowitz was finishing a novel at the time of his death. It was near completion, and it was based on the 1961 Goldsboro B-52 crash. So I thought it was really kind of neat. He had pitched a combination of, he had also wanted to have Kung Fu Theater was another one. And this one was Enter the Dragon in Pleasantville, the story of a slacker who becomes trapped in a Kung Fu movie from the 1970s. So I really wish that would have happened. It was picked up by DreamWorks, but it was in, Jamie Foxx was an attachment to star at one time, but it's like in development hell. So I always just think about like what happens to people after the fact. And I don't know. That kind of like it takes me down like these weird pathways. So that's one of the things I was thinking about today was, you know, you never know what could happen, and that guy had been really healthy and he was being, successful, and he was asked to speak at a college campus. And I think about, how important it is for us to like think about what your dreams are, follow through, and don't worry about, like, oh, this might not work out. It's even better if it sometimes doesn't work out. I've watched what was it, the Falcon and Winter Soldier premiere last week, and the next one's tomorrow. And one of the things I really thought was interesting about it, yeah, it's like, as I love those characters anyway, but there's a part in it, and it won't spoil things for you, but his sister was having money trouble, and that it kind of highlights that people in our world are very not supportive, and also really nasty to Black people, people of color who go to banks and ask for money. And it had the worst banker in the universe, but it was a good example of how nasty people can be. Like, how did you get that money to work? How, oh, are you a football player? Oh, you're a superhero. Like all that stuff. And it doesn't even matter. You're at a bank asking for money, and you can be one of the most well-known superheroes who saved the world, and yet they're like, oh, but we can't get you money. Really, really, really. So it just makes me think, like, there's a lot of obstacles against people, and there's always obstacles, but you got to fight. You always got to fight for what you need in your life. So so yeah, I was thinking about that today. So I have I found this really interesting. Okay, before I get into the serious stuff, I'm going to show you one mental thing that I found on the internet today. Because we all talk about how data targets us, right? I'm going to be all over the place today. I'm just warning you. So one of the things I found that showed up in my Facebook feed, Facebook, was actually, let's see, where is it? Here it is. This, because I play video games and I have a vagina, that I was targeted by something called Parafit, and it's a video game, and it's a combination of a wireless Bluetooth vibrator, kind of, not a vibrator to get off, but it's a tool to make your to help you do Kegel exercises and help make your pelvic floor stronger. So it's designed by doctors, they say, and you contract and relax your pelvic floor to catch the falling lotuses. So it's a video game. They've gamified making your pelvic floor, your Kegel exercises stronger. How freaking weird is that? So I shared that today on my Facebook because I was like, why did I get targeted for this? Why? And is it awesome? I just laugh about that stuff. Sometimes you get the weirdest things, Why me? Do they know something I don't know? Do I need a stronger inside lady part? I don't know. Maybe everybody does. Maybe this is the best thing ever. So now you know it exists. So one of the things about libertarians is we, you'll hear it in every group that you talk to, is taxation is theft. And one of the things that people often do that are libertarians is when they do tips. Here's a picture I'm going to just share that's from Reason Magazine. And it's something that a lot of my friends have done, is instead of, when you're signing your bill, especially if you pay with credit card, is like they often have the tip section. You write what the tip is, so they can like take it out of your credit card. But a lot of times people pay with cash, and then they still write it in. Oh, cats are running through the house like crazy. So what you'll see is let's see. This it is like, and they'll write it in taxation is theft. And if you see it, it's on the line, Google taxation is theft, so we can have an educational moment. So the reason that people they'll pay the tip separate. They'll just cross it out and they'll put cash, like this is what your tip is, so that way the government doesn't get their cut. And it's a sneaky way for the government to like not only monitor what you actually make, but also to take anything extra on top of what you're making, their cut too, because the government wants their little slice of the moolah. So it's the libertarian side of this is that we're helping people who are in service professions, especially, to get a little extra money and to not have it go right to the government. And that's the thing. That's the problem. It's they say that the non-tip is it's a personal gift and it should go right to you. And I think that's kind of interesting. Where does this come from? It's definitely more of it's something that people who are Democrat and Republican and independent who don't really know libertarians, they'll see this and they'll go, So this is the intersection of libertarianism and wait staff. So you see it again and again, especially if you have a libertarian convention. We all get together and we are always likely to do this. So this is something that if you are not familiar with us, this is a great way of doing it. So there are they bemoan that the wait staff were hiding tips from the taxmen. So a lot of big government people say, oh, they're keeping it from the government. Yeah, we don't care. Like, honestly, we feel like more of the money should be going to the little guy anyway. So really, why is something that you're not actually being paid for by a business, why does government have access to that? I've always kind of wondered why they think they should have right to your extra money, because then, that extra money, we need a cut of that. So in this year when restaurants are hurting even more because of the COVID restrictions shutting them down, making it so some businesses would have to bend over backwards to get into the shape of what would be acceptable for people to come back and eat in their restaurants. This is what it took. This is what it took. So I think that the horror of it is that honestly, there's so many businesses that are hurting from it. There's a double standard for what works. Oh my gosh, I want to go see the memes. There's taxation is theft meme. Oh, so like they have pictures of the government. Theft is a guy holding a gun to your head, but taxation is theft is when it's a guy who's like in the government or as a policeman. Let's see. How is tax collection any different than tribute to a bandit? Oh yeah. Here, let's look at some memes. I feel like doing that now. I am all over the place. Sorry, guys. It's been a long day. Let's see. Where is that? I just saw it. We're going to look at the memes. I have too many. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. There we go. Which one is it? It is Know Your Meme. Okay. Sorry. I need an assistant. Where is it? There it is. It was the very first one and I missed it. There we go. So some memeage. Anarcho-capitalists. Taxation is theft. This is like a video game. When someone posts a taxation is theft meme online so you can hack their car and drive them off a bridge, that's the CIA. Yes. When you're hitting it from behind, Moan's taxes are the price we pay to live in a civil society. No, taxation is theft. Purge the unclean, deny the witch. Taxation is heresy. Taxation is it the price we pay to live in a civil society? Inevitable, like death? Necessary to build the roads? No, taxation is theft. Ba-ba. Oh man, I hate it when there's really long ones. Wife goes to see if baby's sleeping, walks into baby's room. Baby, taxation is legalized theft. Me, no baby, she woke as F. I like that one. Bernie, taxation is theft, Bernie. Yes. And then I love that there are stamps all the time where taxation is theft on that. I've seen a lot of stamps. You're not supposed to mess with money. Just telling you. But yes, that is right. Whisper to me. Whisper what? I don't know anything. Taxation is theft. Yeah, baby. That's how you whisper in the ear of libertarian women. Mm. Girls, did you know that taxation is theft? Yes. Um, hey, did you know that taxation is theft? Are you looking to date or hook up? Says Perry on the internet. I'm looking to abolish the federal government. She's like, I just broke up with my BF and I'm looking to have some fun. And he says, how can we have fun when the Federal Reserve is incessantly printing away our money, our lives? Yes, that is it. There's so many memes about taxation is theft. Oh, here's one. You wake up to this and your first words are taxation is theft. Oh, sorry. I'm all over the place. Yes. Oh, their tip. Oh, yeah. I got to look at that, Eric. Here, I'm going to click on the LP store. It's like product tip cards, pack of 50. So you can go out and you can leave one of these so people can learn about that taxation is indeed theft. And that's what I was thinking about today is that, I think it is one of the truths, the undeniable truths, is that we always feel like the government is always looking for their cut and it's unnecessary and kind of evil. I'm going to show that tip card thing really quick though. Let me look. Stop sharing. I want to just see it again. Let me click that. Okay. That's on the face. Let me see. Oh, man. Let's see. Is it on me? Oh, my cat just jumped randomly. That was really weird. Where am I? Oh, I have too many pages. Let me go here. Let's see if it's there or if it's on Freedom Revolution. Yes, and as you all know, my show is also on Freedom Revolution Network, and it's there. There it is. Okay, I'm going to share that. It's on the Libertarian LP store. There are tip cards, and I wanted to show what it looked like because I think that's awesome. So I'm going to just share that really quick. It's really a good thing. So you can buy them and then hand them out, and they're very cool and affordable, and the money goes to the LP to help get libertarian people elected, and it's really awesome. So anyway, it says taxation is theft, and it also has a really kind of cool thing on a little short political quiz to show where you fall on the political party. It's centrist, libertarian, right, authoritarian, left liberal, statist. So they're only $16 and you get a pack of 50 and it proceeds go to the Libertarian Party, and I think that's really freaking cool. So thanks, Eric, for sharing that. I really like that a lot. Very cool. So there we are. Stopping sharing, all the sharing. So the other side of the issue, and I that is one of my core beliefs, is I do think we're overtaxed. And I mean, it's like more like half of your money is going to the government, and what are you getting out of it? And in this year, they're like, oh, they give us a little bit of money back because we're hurting. We're hurting all the time, bitches. We shouldn't be sending so much money if they can just so easily give us that. And then they'll say, well, no, that's an excuse to tax you more. So get ready for that, kids. So anyway, what I wanted to also say is I saw this article today about tipping, and there was a history of tipping. And one of the things I think is interesting is people want to get rid of tipping because they say it perpetuates racism, classism, and poverty, and we're not getting a living wage. So what they're saying is they want to enforce a living wage, which is the problem, is because a lot of other industries besides, our service industries, our frontline people are actually usually closer to being paid what they're worth, and then we lose half of that money to go to the government. So this is the problem. So they're always looking for their cut. But the problem is industries that often are staffed by people of color, by women, by poorer people, are often the ones that you are tipping because, and it's a perpetual cycle because um, we know that these are people who are poor and they're not being paid well. So if you don't tip, you're a jackass and they are suffering. Because, but if you have something where the government makes it so they have to be paid more, they're enforced. There's a, the minimum wage is raised, then everything else costs more. And then that wage that we thought was actually enough for them ends up not being. It's a cycle. It's an evil, evil cycle where poor people are constantly pushed down. And it doesn't work. And that's the problem. I'm not entirely sure how to make this better because employers know that if they're in an industry where there's tipping, especially in our country, we rely on tipping, then they don't have to pay. And if you like the service, then you pay. But bigger, like national chains don't need to really rely on that because they've grown so big. They have so much money coming in. You could have a profit. You could make it profitable, and it doesn't need to do that. So this is an article I read on Vox, which I have multiple feelings about. I don't think this is the total way that it has to go, but they say that right now there's restaurant servers, hourly wages can be ridiculously low at $2.13 an hour. That's in most states. That's really, it's so crazy low. So the servers do in those cases depend on tips to account for the bulk of their income. So this is where the government gets all super crazy about it because they want to tax you because they know that most of the money that they're taking home is actually tips. So they're like, give us that sweet, sweet cut. And we can't allow that. But at the same time, then if you had something where it was they gave a living wage and you didn't have to rely on tips, or they abolished tips, then everything would raise. They would have less servers because they would say we can't afford to have so many. It's this nasty, nasty cycle. And as we all know, that restaurants are very delicate. It's a delicate industry because something like COVID can wipe out like a huge chunk of them just because it's like difficult to keep maintaining it. The hoops they got to jump through is impossible. So I feel like there's a lot of pain in this. And the reason there's so much pain in it is because the government has made themselves too much a part of this industry. And that is why we have the trouble. It's not because they're not enforcing it enough. It's because they've enforced it too much. And now it's grown dependent and they are sucking on each other. So this is the problem, that the full service restaurant industry has grown over 85% since 1990. And while and people aren't cooking at home anymore, they're relying on restaurants for food and for pretty much everything. While overall, the private sector employment grew by only about 24%. So today, more than 1 in 10 U.S. workers is employed in the leisure and hospitality sector. So 1/10 of our working people in the country are doing this. So making labor policies for these industries all the more central and defining typical American work life. So this is what people are doing now. It used to not be so big, but in the last 20 years, 30 years, it's exploded. The industry is huge. So the poverty rate of tipping of the workers who get tips, right, is nearly double that of other workers throughout the country. And it's just, it seems like for an industry that's growing and succeeding, why are they still having so much poverty? And the tip employees are 3 times more likely to be on food stamps as well. So they're not making enough money to live on, and they're not making enough money to live on from tips. So this is just showing that if people are going into restaurants and there are like so many more of them and they're very successful, the people that they're building them on are suffering, and this is not a good thing for our country. It's not a good thing for our people. So the rich are getting richer, and the poor are definitely getting poorer. So the tipped workers, they're more likely to live in poverty. Now, out of all the workers in the country that are living in poverty, 6.7%. This is everybody. The tipped workers, however, are much more likely to be in poverty, and that's 12.8%, which is still pretty low. I'm not going to say that this is an epidemic proportion, but it's very low. And out of the proportions that are waiters and bartenders, 14.9% of people are also living in poverty. Now, the EPI does research. EPI, what is that? Economy Policy Institute, EPI. So they say that that it's nearly double of that of other workers. So 6.7% are everyone. And then if you just look at who are tipped workers, 12.8%. So it's not enough to live on for most people in general, but they say that tipping is not great. However, I think some of this is the caveat. I think that some of this is coming from the White House because they want to get rid of tipping because it's really hard for them to track it. Now, you could say, okay, does it attract? Do some of these industries attract people who are more prone to being in poverty? And I mean, that's not a fair thing to say. I mean, every industry has people who are like either bad with money or they make choices that are more impulsive. But I think about like sex work. People have bad attitudes about who are in that, and I know people who invest their money who are sex workers who are very, very good with their money. But then for every one of them, there are people who are just shitty with money. They just throw it out the minute they get it. So I don't know that this means that we need to restructure our whole society because some people are not doing well. But they say that tipping is undemocratic in this Fox article that I was looking at. And that made me kind of just pause and go, I don't think that's right. They say tipping was a threat in the itching palm is a moral disease. They thought it was like giving handouts to the homeless and that kind of thing, and you can see that people are always, you see different sides of like people should help themselves versus you should be a good, like a good Christian or whatever and help people. So where should we stand on this? I mean, this is something that I actually thought was very confusing. You look at both sides. Tipping doesn't do what it's supposed to do, they say. An informal service contract between the customer and the waiter acting as a consumer monitoring mechanism. So if you have good service, you give a higher tip for great service, and then it rewards them for doing even more work. So they say it's really, really wrong to do that. You aren't their boss. You shouldn't be rewarding them. What the reward should be coming from is the business itself, so it's successful. So they should pay their people more and more because they see that the more people come, the more they should pay. And really, that's what should happen, but it doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. Because, I mean, you're still paying for, like in a restaurant situation, you're paying for the food, the amount of food, the place itself. I mean, there's a lot of things that the money is going into. So how do they figure that out? Are we in a broken system? Is it broken? I mean, I don't work in the restaurant industry, so I am not an expert. So they say they think it's silly to think that servers are motivated merely by prospective tips. Servers are motivated to do a good job in the same way everyone else is. They want to keep their jobs and earn raises. They want to have pride in their work. So there's a lot to it on what makes somebody a good server in any situation. But tipping is part of the motivation. It's just not always for the employee. The thought of being able to hire labor around $2 an hour is probably great news to employers looking to make profits. They're like, yes, we'd love to pay people less. And you look at the business side of things, yes. And if you know that they're going to get tips anyway, and some of them are going to get a lot of tips, then it's great. But if you're in a situation where, like, COVID happens, there's a pandemic, people are going to suffer. They're going to suffer. So they feel like workers of all backgrounds, not people of color, but everyone dislike waiting on people who have less money. And that's the thing is there are some situations where there's racial motivations. If you look at someone, you're like, they look like they have a lot of money, and you're going to help the rich white person compared to the poor black person. Where is this, like, is it fair, is it unfair? you know is there going to be motivation for helping someone who looks like they're rich compared to someone that looks like they're poor? So there's discrimination on both sides of the issue. There's discrimination on like making somebody who works a really hard job only get paid by tips versus do those people who get paid only by tips, are they going to only be nice to people who look like they have money? And that's where there's some problems, inherent problems in the tipping system. It could be discriminatory, it could be unconstitutional, and it can be psychologically harmful because you're relying on the kindness of others, and honestly, a society where we're like enforcing, like, yeah, you should get a tip because you want to do good. And it's not really a charitable thing anymore if you are dependent on it. So where is the motivation for changing this system coming from? Is it a morality issue? Is it a racial issue, which I've read a few articles that say, yeah, it is? Or is it the government that's trying to manipulate us because we're very woke right now and make us do this because they want their cut? And that's what I'm thinking it's actually coming down to. I think it's because they want their hard cut of more money. I don't think I'm wrong on that. I think that's where a big part of it is. So that is my thought of the day. Is tipping good? What do you think? Write in the comments. Do you think we should get rid of tipping? Lots of countries don't have tipping, and I don't. I could go either way. I think we should. The ultimate bottom line is the government shouldn't be in every interaction. I think that you should be able to pay people what you think a service is worth and see where it goes from there. Why does the government always have to have a cut of everything? Why? I mean, they're not helping in all these situations. Why do they have to enforce all their standards that they have? They make people jump through hoops. They make businesses jump through hoops, and it can be devastating. So I want to see what they say. I like that tipping allows you to recognize good service. COVID didn't put tip workers out of work. Government overreach, lockdowns did. And exactly it. That's why I'm like, some of the stuff, the wokeness, I think that getting rid of tips, I don't feel like that's the problem. I think it's the government overreach is definitely more of it. So every time that they try to get involved to help us, it seems to cause more problems. So tip your servers, be a good person because it still exists, but know that this is a conversation that I'm seeing come up a lot this week. So I think that means that it will be on the minds of our governing officials because it's coming up again. So think about tipping. Think about what you want to do with that. Okay. So next on my list, and thank you, Eric, for sharing the tip cards. I think those are really freaking cool. The next thing I saw, I'm going to take another sip. I'm a little dry and parched today. So, the next thing I wanted to do, okay, I'm going to turn off the taxation stuff. I saw something today. Let me go to the top of that. You know how I feel about Facebook and YouTube and their misinformation. they're so hardcore about fake news lately that they both are getting like really crazy about putting a stop to misinformation. So I saw an article in the MIT Technology Review this last week that said this Facebook got addicted to spreading misinformation. Um, so the company has an AI algorithm. I can talk. It's like been a long day. And it gave it an insatiable habit for lies and hate speech. So now the man who built them can't fix the problem. This is hilarious to me. So there was Joaquin Conero Candela was the director of AI at Facebook, and he was apologizing to his audience last week, and it said it like a couple years ago. He said it was just days after the revelation that Cambridge Analytica, a consultancy that worked on Donald Trump's 2016 presidential election campaign, had surreptitiously, they love these words, siphoned the personal data of tens of millions of Americans from their Facebook accounts in an attempt to influence how they voted. So this AI had worked on our country and in the election system. Big shock, right? No, we know this is happening. But it was the biggest privacy breach in Facebook's history. And he had been previously scheduled to speak at a conference on the intersection of AI ethics and privacy at the company. And he considered canceling it, but after debating it with his communications director, he kept it at his allotted time. He faced the room and he said, I had the hardest 5 days of his tenure at Facebook. And he remembered saying if there's criticism, he'd accept it. So he should. So the Cambridge Analytica scandal would kick off Facebook's largest publicity crisis ever. So, and they don't stop. It doesn't stop them from doing this. So they wanted to see that they're using the platform to amplify fake news and hate speech. And they had Russian hackers had weaponized them to try to sway the election in Trump's favor. So millions began deleting the app because employees left in protest. The company's market capitalization plunged by $100 billion. That ain't nothing after its July earnings call. This is 2 years ago, 3 years ago. 3 years ago. So in the ensuing months, Mark Zuckerberg began his own apologizing. They did the apologizing, like, hey, we're so sorry, we're so sorry. So Facebook's responsibilities in this and the mistakes as a CEO, because their platform was so powerful, they got Trump elected. I'm not going to say this, but, well, maybe I will, but I think part of it is like it also has like gotten every candidate elected now. So there is something to be said for the power of social media, and AI is a huge part of it. So they worked with the issues and they tried to form what's called now responsible AI. So they've used the 6 years of Conero being at Facebook. He created some of the first algorithms. I'm never going to have an easy time with that word. For targeting users with content precisely tailored to the interests. Just like my vibrator video game that I showed you, that is targeted information. I wouldn't have seen it if they didn't know Heather's talked about video games. She has a vagina. Let's send that to her. So they pointed at the efforts to repair the reputation. So this is all about fixing their reputation. And they have time and time again taking a deeper look at their company's AI work, and they've brought in AI leaders to try to fix their reputation. However, that in the years since they formed this team, there's concerns about spread of lies and hate speech on Facebook. They were worried in 2018 that this activity had helped fuel a genocidal anti-Muslim campaign in Myanmar for several years. So there's a lot of weird stuff coming off of the AI from Facebook that it leads to some really terrible things happening. Facebook started taking action against Holocaust deniers, anti-vaxxation people, conspiracy movement, QAnon, and these dangerous falsehoods. So they used they kind of weaponize their own AI to attack groups. And they say that wasn't happening, but it totally was. So this is all part of this, what they call responsible AI, and this is all capitalized. So this is what they're calling it. So um, this MIT Technology Review author was calling Quinero regularly. They spoke to Facebook executives. They wanted to find out what was Quinero's team doing to rein in the hate and lies on the platform, which the way I look at it is, how are they using AI to censor speech on their platform? This is actually what it means. So they had a different agenda. He tried to bring up the topics about stopping hate speech. They want to discuss the responsible AI team's plan to tackle one kind of problem: AI bias, in which algorithms discriminate against particular user groups. An example would be ad targeting algorithm that would show certain job or housing opportunities to white people, but not to minorities. They wanted to put a stop to racial targeting of ads, but they still do. They still do. So they talked about how the U.S. Capitol in January with the riots, they had organized part on Facebook and fueled by lies. So the responsible AI team had failed to make headway against misinformation and hate speech because it never made those problems its main focus. More important, it would be set up for failure. The reason's simple. Everything the company does and chooses not to do flows from a single motivation. So Zuckerberg's relentless desire for growth. He wants to grow. He doesn't want to get rid of people on Facebook. And that is the one saving grace. I mean, I know in this article they're talking about how like they're not putting a stop to racism and all of this, because really the ultimate purpose of Facebook is to make money off of our data. And they want to know what we want to know, and they want us to keep growing. But if they stop groups from talking on Facebook, they will undermine growth. So they got to find this balance of not making it so there's criminal activity, but at the same time, not getting too into it. So this is the problem. And so they keep on talking about it. There's hard-coded traditional algorithms that they can use to stop bad data. But the more that they tell people they don't want, they want to prevent certain thoughts from coming on to Facebook, people will talk about leaving, and they don't want people to leave, even if they don't like what we're talking about. So this is the good in that. And it's a huge article in this MIT review. And I don't have the heart to put you through the whole thing, but they're taking it seriously. There's a lot of they talk about Middle Eastern regimes that are coming and going, and it just is amazing. It's like a huge article. But the themes that we're seeing is that again and again is that Facebook and YouTube, they're still messing with having like ideas shut down, but they also don't really want to lose our business. So there's some saving grace to that, and I hope that the capitalist side of America will stop censorship from happening. And YouTube removed 30,000 videos with COVID misinformation. And this is the other side of it. So there's a lot, they say it's misinformation, but sometimes it's people with different opinions and ideas about vaccination. So they're using their AI to flag health information on the internet. And I know I'm in a lot of health groups, and I'm seeing a lot more censorship on health issues than ever before. So I'm thinking the way they're targeting is definitely they're getting more acceptance on censorship of health ideas. But political ideas, the groups are so angry about being censored that that's not flying. So they're turning, it's like they got a knob, like turn it up on health, turn it down on political. They're trying to find that middle ground where they can censor us all, but still not enough that we leave. Because they want our money. We are money. They want our money. So know that that's not the end of it. It will keep happening. So then let's see, what was my other thing I wanted to talk about? I went down too many tangents, kids. So Facebook was also labeling vaccine posts to combat COVID-19 misinfo. And again, it's annoying, and we'll see it keep going for a while, but I'm going to keep an eye on it for you. You know, I don't like censorship. But people get pissed because there's anti-vaccination propaganda, they like to call, and they want to weed out their misinformation. So if you're only getting your news from social media, this is the problem. You need to reach out, and you need to look at different sources, and you need to take a little active role in your information gathering instead of just believing things that your friends share with you, because you're going to start seeing a lot of that disappearing. Okay, so I feel like I'm kind of pooping out on my news. This week has been just kind of weird. There's some articles about bullying using free speech, and I was kind of excited about that, but I'm less excited now. One of the things that came up in the news was there's an ethics and diversity course in Boise State that they had halted, and they said that there's 1,300 students a semester. There's a rumored video of a student being humiliated for being white. So they put a stop to it, and they're looking into it, and they're having scrutiny from state lawmakers. So this could be a trend in schools and all over the country, because there's diversity training everywhere. There's diversity training in businesses and schools, but the worry from conservative lawmakers is that there's kind of indoctrination going on. And I do believe that there is indoctrination going on in all sorts of different ways in our country. But I think if there's thoughtful information about race and ethics and diversity in classes, that's one thing. But to make people feel humiliated and belittled in any class, in any situation, is not a good thing. Now, does that mean we should stop having diversity training anywhere? No. I think that we get out of hand with our thought control all over the world, but and all over our country. And this is nothing new. But we'll have to keep an eye on that, because because of, like in Boise, Idaho, they state legislatures cut $409,000 from their budget, alleging the university was pursuing an expensive social justice agenda. So this could be the beginning of many states losing some of their diversity funding. So just be aware that it's like every time there's like the swing, one way to the other. That's how it goes. So on that note, I just don't understand. I don't understand why this is constantly a thing. People get so angry about that, and it's just weird. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. This show's gotten really odd today. Oh, I'm so sorry. I wore a dress today. This is like Heather being pretty thing. Since I only have like a couple people watching, I wear like a dress I hadn't been able to fit for a long time, and it has pockets. There you go. And I talked to a coworker the other day, hadn't seen forever, and she was like, "You lost weight in your face." I'm like, "Yes, and everywhere." And you lose it in places you don't want to, like you lose it in your boobs if you like having bigger boobs, and then you don't lose it in your stomach or whatever. It's not fair, but it's a work in progress. So I'm constantly going to be working on it and trying to get a little bit better all the time. So anyway, I wore a dress for you today. Thank you for watching. Oh, so on that note, tell me what you think about tipping. Do you think we should get rid of it, like they're saying in some of these articles? Or should we keep it? Should we keep the government out of our tips to people? If anything else, I do believe taxation is theft, and get the word out. Google it if you don't know what I mean. Google taxation is theft. I mean, once you open that door, you'll start going down the rabbit hole. It's kind of fun. So I'm gonna just cut it a little short. I'm hungry. I didn't get my good green drink in this morning, and that whole thing with eating a Pop-Tart ruined my sugar balance. So now I'm wild. So I'm gonna go get a little something to eat and be a little less crazy. So I hope you have a great week, guys. I hope it's the best week ever. And I love getting to talk to you. And we will talk again soon. Have a great night. See you later.